I'm Ram.
Hi, Salman. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you. Give me a second. Let's wait for a few minutes, 2-3 more minutes.
Yep.
Thank you.
So meanwhile, Imran, whoever is in right now, should I just tell them what to do? They can start putting their thoughts at that time. And then after 10 minutes, I will do it again so that whoever joins in those 10 minutes, they can follow along from that point onwards.
Are you referring to Miro thing?
Yes, yes.
So you can, but the only thing is if they start typing, they will not focus what I have in agenda first. I have kept a specific slide for you and for them to think and share. And so, yeah.
Sounds good. Let's
you will have your own section as well coming up.
Then do it. Yeah.
We're just going to wait for a minute or two as some participants are joining, and then before we start. All right, I think we should get started now. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, evening, good night. I mean, wherever you are in the world. Those who were not there in the first meeting, my My full name is Imran Yassin, and I am assuming that you guys have seen the recording as well as the PowerPoint presentation I uploaded, as well as sent a private message to almost all of you. So from now, today, we're going to start over today's session. So let me share my screen. So today, just to tell everyone, today is a brainstorming session for our first task called data pre-processing. So today we are just meeting up to make a strategy on how to approach. So in our agenda today, I'm just going to introduce our task leads and task co-leads. I'm going to give them platform. They will tell us about their strategy, what they have thought on how to approach this project. And then there will be a participants will share their expectations, what they are expecting from our task lead and co-task leads. And we as a participants will tell them. And then we will finalize our regular meeting times, as well as if time permits, we can have our icebreaker activity as well. So then our participants can be more, get to know each other as well better. So for our task, first task, for data pre-processing task, our main task lead is Salman Khalik, as well as, hi Salman, as well as Rich Gregson, as well. And then for task lead 2 is exploratory data analysis. Our task lead is Komal Malani, and she will be, Salman will join her as well in the task leads on second task. And the third task is feature engineering, in which Rich Gregson will be taking part. Rich, do you mind opening your camera? That would be great.
Yep, 1 second.
So just a reminder to all task and co-task leads, they all would be responsible to explain us their finalized version of their pre-written codes. So it's expected that before the meeting, whenever we meet on weekly basis, they will have pre-written on their end those codes, or maybe in a shared Google Colab file in which we all can see the codes before the meeting, and then they will just explain us all those codes with their logic, with the good comments to us during meeting time. Moreover, they will be expected, all task and co-task leads, to post relevant articles and related to task related stuff, or let's say for task data pre-processing, cleaning stuff, they should have 2-3 articles, something bookmarked on their channels. So at least those who are beginner, they know what their logic is and what approach they're gonna take. So people should know or are on the same page. Yes, so that's the main gist of the expectations, at least from them. Now I would like to ask task lead for this task 1 is Salman Khalik, will be leading with Rich Gregson. So maybe they can tell us about how their approach will be for this task, which is, yes, for task 1, which is a data pre-processing task.
Yeah.
So Salman and Rich, do you guys want to say?
Sounds good. So thank you so much, Imran, giving us the opportunity. And just to explain what exactly we would be doing in this particular first task, what my strategy, what I think about it is, I've kind of like written some code. I've kind of like figured out which features are kind of like good for us, or they are kind of like valuable. So I have used several different strategies. So this is my part, but I would be kind of like anybody who is kind of like learning and they're beginner. I would be kind of like putting up step-by-step procedures that what exactly they should do. And I have kind of like written up a code. If you don't mind, Imran, can I share my screen? I want to just give them a look of the code, that what exactly I'm doing and what my strategy would be going forward. Yeah. Imran, I cannot, means it's saying host disabled participant screen share.
What does it say?
It's saying host disabled participant screen share.
Right now, I just changed it to multiple participants. Can you do it now?
Yes. So, for example, like for any beginner, the basic steps are just bringing the data using pandas, looking at the head and the tail, means what it looks like, and get the feel of it, what kind of variables we have. You can see that there are some NaN values. Some of them are kind of like zeros or a lot of different things. For example, like you can see some of the variables are strings, which means there's categorical variables. We have to kind of like do encoding for them later. So those NaN values, we can see that means we need some sort of imputation strategy. So once you get to see all the variables, what kind of variables you have. For example, at the very end, you see that there's an ID column. So this ID column, just by looking at it, if you go and further explore the data, for example, like I did over here. So this ID column means exactly the same number of unique values as the overall data. That means this is just a simple index. If we want to change the index of our data to be that ID column, we can do that. So based on that, we would just get rid of one of the column. So what we do is we start with simple strategy, look at the shape of our train and test size. Then we look at the info, means how many null values or things like that. For example, like you can see, we have total number of this number of data. That means year built has some missing values, energy star rating has some missing values, and you can see the data types on the side as well. So it tells you, gives you an idea. And at the end, it gives you a summary as well. It tells you how many float variables you have, how many integers, how many objects. Objects are technically the categorical variables. So technically, we have just 3 categorical variables. So we have to kind of like in our pre-processing step, we have to take care of this kind of like types of the data. So those object variables needs to be converted into a numerical variable, either integers or float. We will see, because depending on what memory size we want to use or something, we can change it. And for example, like description also gives you an idea that means whether you look at the variation. For example, if you look at standard deviation, you look at which variables have very less standard deviation. If they have close to 0, which means there are a lot of repeated values, or they're kind of like overlapped, which means you can get rid of that particular variable or get rid of that particular feature from your data based on that. So you just do some analysis. It's kind of like just give you an idea. So anybody who is beginning, anybody who already knows this stuff, that's amazing. But I'm kind of like going through this from the point of view for the people who are kind of like learning. So and this is just an idea. So you try doing these simple basic commands, and it will give you a very good indication of what kind of information you have or things like that. You look at the mean value. If the mean value is kind of like what it tells you or things like that. For example, like I figured out that this particular direction peak wind and direction maximum wind, they have kind of like the value starting from 1. Which means if their values are starting from 1, and a lot of them, for example, minimum value is 1, 25 percentile is 1, 50 percentile is 1, 75 percentile is 1, and the maximum value is 360, which means there are a lot of values which are just 1, but very few values which are 360. So you kind of like look at those variables and then go further deep down on those variables, that what kind of distribution those particular variables have. So figure out some of the variables or some of the features using this strategy and highlight them. What I do is I basically just write them on a piece of paper for now, because right now I'm trying to maximize my productivity. So when I have everything all done, I will start putting in the notes in my Jupyter notebook and update every single analysis point or things like that. So in Markdown. So that should be your strategy. If you're a beginner, if you know what you're doing, then do whatever you are good at, and that would be amazing. This is kind of like from my part. For example, like I tried doing figuring out how many null values. So you can see these columns have this percentage of null values in them. So 2.42 is very low percentage. That means we can fix that very easily. But 35%, 60%, 54%, we have to think about it. We have to come up with some strategies to kind of like deal with this data, because we cannot drop 60% of the data just like that. So, or just drop this column based on that. So we will see if we can do something with this feature, or it's a total kind of like the other way around. So we have to kind of like do some strategies, try to fix it. If we cannot fix it, then obviously the last strategy would be dropping it. So that is my strategy. Now I would go to Rich, and Rich can explain his strategy.
Yep. My strategy was pretty much very similar to your strategy. The columns that you can see what you've got on your screen there with the null values, I sort of took a look at, dropping them is a last sort of resort. However, I think if we're able to sort of figure out a way to fill them with, you know, a number that makes sense and is coherent with the rest of the data, we can work out then how important that feature is to the overall target variable in the feature engineering part. But at the minute, your analysis so far was pretty much an exact replica of what I did. The only slightly different thing I did was basically the target variable site EUI. I just took a look at the distribution of that value, just to see what kind of, you know, if there was any outliers in it or anything at all. Another sort of observation I made about the original data, we've got the minimum, the monthly minimum and the monthly maximum, and we've also got an average. And it seems that, you know, the way they're scaled, the pretty, you know, some of them are whole numbers, some of them are floats. And it might be an idea to either round them up or down. However, you know, we have to be careful of any rounding errors because they can build up. Other than that, it was pretty much the same as you, Salman. So I'm very happy where we are at the minute with that, and I'd love to hear if there's anyone else had any sort of alternative take on that. Just to note as well, the categorical features, I'm glad that we don't have that many. So, you know, there's a number of different methods we can to make them into numerical values. We've got for the building type, for example, we've got 2, commercial and residential. So I think we could, you know, we could either go with sort of one hot encoding, or we could use the pandas get dummies, but we'll have to obviously drop one of the you know, the categories for that, so we don't fall into the dummy variable trap. But yeah, other than that, that's, you know, we got some good observations down there. So I would like, you know, to open the floor to see if anyone else had any ideas that myself and Salman have not covered.
And one more thing before anybody chip in. So I know that some of you would have done your own analysis, and what I did is basically we can use Miro to put together everybody's ideas on one single piece of whiteboard, and so that we can organize all the ideas so that everybody is heard and everybody has the chance to say what they want to say. So this way, and if anybody and nobody would be looking at your names, or in fact, nobody would be knowing that who wrote what. So if anybody is not comfortable speaking up or kind of like coming forward or hesitant about it, don't worry about it. Just write your thing. And because there are so many people, nobody is watching you. So just write it and be confident, and nobody would be picking up on you. So just write whatever your thoughts are. And that would be amazing, because anything that we get from so many different people, there are so many different brains, we can do a lot. So one thing, I will share my screen for the Miro, and if you haven't joined the Miro invitation, just join that Miro invitation. It will take you to the whiteboard. And now, for example, like where's my Miro board? Okay, so let me share my Miro board. Okay, So this is where we are. So on the Miro board, what you have to do, you can see you have a plain piece of whiteboard or board. What I can do is I can just put a frame on it. And now you can zoom in and zoom out by scrolling in, first thing. You can move around by pressing this button. So if you want to select something, you press on it and you can select and move. And if you want to just grab something, just click on it again, and then you can move around on this pen. That's one thing. Next thing is you see over here, these are sticky notes. That is what we are going to use. So you go here, click on the sticky notes. And if you have just one thing to say or two things to say, just use one sticky note. And if you have multiple things to say, go and click on the bulk mode. For example, bulk mode, I would press it, and whatever points here are, just put first point, enter, second point, enter. For example, I would write maybe identify null columns. Then I would enter, and then I would write to maybe delete columns with zero variance or things like that. When you are done, you press it, it will automatically paste your sticky notes on the screen. So this way you can put together all your ideas. Everybody can put their ideas, and then what we are going to do is we will collect all those ideas and summarize them. And this way everybody has the chance to speak. Everybody has the equal time to say what they want to say, and then we are going to kind of like arrange them and use them to our advantage. If anybody has any question, you can ask me. What you can do right now is go on and put up your ideas.
Salman, I do have a question.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so I actually also did some basic coding because I have just started studying. So I was doing some basic things, like I was checking for the categorical fields, and facility type column has like a lot of different categories. So if we are planning to like use one hot encoding or something like that, will not it increase the number of columns by significant extent?
Yeah. Can I pick that one up, Salman? With the facility type, if you use one hot encoding, it as you say, it creates a lot of columns. It increases computational effort. So the best way to handle that would be to use a label encoder, and it would just assign every unique value with its own particular number. And then that way you could sort of, you could make reference to that column with, with a certain label number will mean, the grocery store or food market category class, shall I say, and you can then you'd be able to drop that column then, the one that's categorical, because you'd have the numerical label. So that the one hot encoder, it's useful for a low amount of categories, but once you've got a significant number of categories, you're best using a label encoder. Or if you've figured out that feature doesn't necessarily mean anything to your data, it can be dropped. But I think in this instance, the facility type, I would intuitively say that it does matter what the facility type is, because you've got the year built and the Energy Star rating. So I think the type of building would have an impact on its energy efficiency, and that that's just an intuitively kind of thing. But yeah, if you've got a number of labels that need to be encoded, use your label encoder. But like the ones for the building, where it's only got two different classes, commercial and residential, you could use one hot encoding, or you could use the pandas get dummies method as well.
Yeah.
So that's my take. My take on that. Salman, would you agree with that, or would you have a different take on that one?
Absolutely. So this is kind of like exploration time. Means we will try several different strategies. We will see. We will try label encoding. We will try one hot encoding. So first of all, when we are selecting features and things like that, there will be some columns we will be dropping. That means some columns will be going down. And when you are converting using one hot, for example, yes, there are kind of like around 60 different categories in that particular column.
Yeah.
So which means it will create 60 columns, but
Mm-hmm.
those values would not be kind of like big. Means we will see how it goes. We will try different strategies. Like Rich said, we will try one hot or label encoding or several different ways, and see which one gives us better result. So it's kind of like that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will be good trying different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Nishit, you have a question?
Yeah. First of all, thanks to both Salman and Rich for taking the lead for this particular session. So since we are here to discuss about the pre-processing part, there are 2-3 points I would like to listen from both of you, and not actually both of you, all of the people there. So like as we discussed in the last meeting also, that the methodological variables are very important, are, you can say, the most important things actually when it comes to the prediction of the energy consumption and all. So my question is that what strategy we are going to incorporate to understand the impractical or the outlier values for the meteorological data, because I think it may be like that, the data that we have, because here we have not collected the data by ourselves, we have directly got it from Imran, but so the data quality may be already good, but in real world scenario, when we collect data by our own, we cannot be sure whether we may have some insane values, or so in that case, even though if data quality is already good here, I think in developing the strategy or the workflow for pre-processing, we should also include the that what are the things you need to look at for the meteorological data. Like for example, if you're looking at temperature, so like which city, I'm not sure which city we are talking about in US. So if we are talking about, suppose if we are talking about New York City, so based on the common sense and common understanding, what is the maximum temperature that has been observed in New York in last 2 decades, or what is the minimum temperature that has been? So if you found any value which is not coming, it is not impractical, which what you observe in that particular city or that particular climate. So I think when we develop the workflow for the pre-processing, even though our data quality is good, but that may not be the case in the real world scenario. So we should talk about the how to deal with the impractical value. So that is first point from outlier. Second thing is that since our main like here also, like I look at the predictive variable that has been given to us, and then some I try to think little bit, and I would like to listen from like you people, that what you think on that. Like the main objective of the project is actually to do the energy the prediction of energy use in building, right? Now if you look at, and then if you look at the data that we have got, the building has been actually divided into 2 categories. One is the residential building, and then other is the commercial building, right? Now I think and if you look at, like suppose if you go with the energy used in the residential area, mostly energy use coming from the electrical appliances used in the home, like TV, refrigerator, AC, and all. Now here, see, I'm talking from Bangkok. I work here in Thailand. It's a tropical country. It's a developing world. It's not like US. So maybe when you're dealing with a city in America, so there the per capita income is very high. People have the energy used per capita is very high. So you don't have to bother about that. What is the income class for people living in a particular area on their energy use, because there's a minimum standard irrespective of what is your income class. People will use a lot of electricity in their home. So when you are dealing with a data set which is based on a developed country like America, the income group may not be an important predictive variable. But if you come to Bangkok, or if you come to India, okay, and if you're developing a model to predict energy use, uh, believe me, like in Bangkok, within Bangkok, if you go to the downtown of the Bangkok, the energy used for the similar kind of climate condition will be very high because people have money to afford. But if you go to the South Bangkok, where the income is not high for the people, in spite of the fact that the climate is very hot, the energy use will be less. People will not have the the guts to on 3 AC, 4 AC in their room. So maybe for the data set that we have here, again, the income uh, may not be important factor. Socioeconomic things may not be important factor for energy use prediction. But again, like if you want to have develop a predictive model which cannot be used only for a big city or metro city like New York or like that, but something which can be applied anywhere, because that is the meaning of machine learning algorithm. It has to be generalized. I think in predictive variable we have to include something like income or socioeconomic things and all. Maybe in this particular data set, you will not see the importance of those variable. But if you're dealing with a very heterogeneous kind of society, especially coming from the third world country or developing country, those variable will have importance. So these two, what is your take on the outlier and how we are going to deal with the outlier? And second point is that is the predictive variable that we have considered for the model development, is that enough, and can we generalize that for the whole world? So these 2 points from me. Thanks.
So
I think, go on, Salman. I'll let you go first this time. Won't be greedy.
So my take on is this, for example, like if you're talking about, so I will answer your second question first, because right now we have the data in hand for just the US. So that means this model is generalized for the US population only. So we cannot implement it on any other country because we don't have the data for that particular specific country. So which means we will deal with whatever we have on hand right now, whatever data we have. And based on that, we will use whatever kind of like features available. So because it requires a lot of data gathering, right? So data collection is a very, very tough job. If we have the data, if we can find data from Bangkok or India or Pakistan or some other regions of the world, and they have the similar features, yes, we can concatenate and we can merge them and things like that, so many different things. But right now, the goal of this particular project is dealing with this data, which is just for specifically US. That means the model that we would be making would be generalized for US population. And for some reason, this data we got here, they are not telling you the years or so many different things, that which cities or something, that for maybe some different reasons that they did not want to disclose certain different things about their data or something. So we have to kind of like use the constraint that we are bound by this particular data that we are dealing with. So just stick with that for now. For the first part, for the first question, outliers and everything, that is what I was showing you. For example, first of all, you visually explore the data. So you look at different variables and different things, and then you kind of like look at the mean value or something. For example, like some of the variables, the temperature cannot be. For example, if I see that February average temperature, if I find that it is something negative 70 or negative 100, that's totally out of the question. So we kind of like look at it, and then after that there are so many different statistical analysis. We can just look at the distribution of the data, and then we can find or you simple basic if anything is within the 3 standard deviation of around the mean, we would stick with that, and everything else we can drop it. That is one strategy, but there are several other strategies we can do. So there are so many different strategies. So we will do step by step. We will do some visual analysis. Visually, you would be able to see that there are some occurrences which are out of the question. For example, like if the year build is kind of like 2040, that is wrong. So you kind of like pick up those things and drop them because they are totally wrong. And then, for example, like so some of the variables, yes, you are right. We have to kind of like stick with the constraints that we are dealing with this data for now. And the strategies are kind of like so many different strategies. I will be sharing several different papers with you, which can give you more insight that how you can deal with the data, which is kind of like not possible or things like that, that would also give you an idea. So that's really good that you brought this up. You want to understand this. That's amazing. There will be several different people who would have same question. So I will find out some research papers and I will share with you. And yep, that's my take on it. So I would give it to Rich now.
Just one point quickly.
Yeah, in terms
just one
of
point
the oh, go on.
Yeah, just one point to add, that within American city, like, do you think that the model for the commercial area and residential area could be different, because the energy used in the commercial area could be very high? Or I don't know, like, I'm just asking, like, what do you think?
I figured it out. Yes, it is high. For commercial, it is high. For residential, in this data, it is low. So for obvious reasons, but we have a lot of data, you see, which means it is a good representative of the whole population. So we have around 75,000 pieces of rows of data, which is a very big data, and it is a good representative of the whole population. So I think that should be fine. How many residential do we have? Did I do that calculation?
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, and thanks Michael for pointing out as well. So there's a restriction that the meeting ends at 40 minutes. It's about to end. So basically what you guys gonna do, you guys gonna rejoin it, same meeting, once it ends, okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yes, Rich, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the outliers, as you've already done, you've done like a sort of, you've checked the info, you've seen the mean, the standard deviation, which you can quickly spot figures that shouldn't really be there. But I think a lot of the outliers as well will be found in the EDA part of it, because we're using charts and plots. Me personally, I find it a lot easier to find outliers like that. So we would plot things like the average temperature of October, and we put that into a distribution plot and just see how that falls. And then, if there's ones that, say it's absolutely scorching in October, you're going to think, well, that can't be right. It's the temperature too high. So what we can do then to amend that, we can either replace that value or that group of values with the mean of the rest, or the median of the rest of the temperatures, depending on what we want to achieve. But what's interesting about our sort of target as well, I'll tell you what, I'll leave it for a minute because we've only got 20 seconds left, and then I'll carry on when we rejoin.
Okay, thanks Salman and Rich. Thank you.
Well, I think we still have 2-3 minutes. Thanks a lot, Nishan.
Energy that's used in 1 year, divided by the total square feet of the building. So the fact that we see a significant difference between the commercial and residential properties isn't surprising, because obviously I would imagine generally commercial properties are going to be a lot bigger and a lot more energy. But I think the calculation of the site EUI based on it's based on the size of the buildings. So I think one of the on initial glance, maybe the floor area might have not been a significant variable, but it will be due to the calculation. So I don't that one's going to be a very important feature, I think. But then again, it's I can't say that for certain until we do the proper analysis on that. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that really. But I think someone mentioned as well on the Miro, the Energy Star rating being imputed with the average build year. Now, I think that's a very, very good point, because obviously as technology's got better, I would imagine that newer buildings have a better energy rating. So when we need to fill these blanks, I think the best way, in my opinion, to go about it would be to take an average of the energy rating for each year a building was created, and use that average to fill in the Energy Star rating. In terms of the year built, that's a little bit more difficult, because you've got no sort of indication of when a building's built within the rest of the data. I think it would just be best going with the median on them ones. If anyone else has got any other thoughts, but I think that's a very, very interesting point, because we don't want to just drag down a median in there, we need to do some computation on the year built as well, because I think they will be inherently linked.
Yeah, that's a good point. And for the imputation, as I can see, let's address anything that you have written on Miro. For example, like somebody saying year built and energy rating, suspect they are inherently linked and worthy considering when imputing. Yes. So I shared a link, I think yesterday or maybe the day before yesterday, about the different strategies for imputation. So that is that is one chapter from one of the book that I found really, really amazing. And in that chapter, they discussed several different strategies. What they're doing is they are kind of like going out with the basic one, simple one, that how to deal with the data, missing data or things like that. You just drop them, but we don't want that. So, but there are several different strategies. You can use several different features. Since we have a lot of features in this particular data, we can use several different features. We can see that whichever variable or feature has missing values, it is correlated with which of other variables or can be linked to some other variables. We can identify those features and then we can do regression analysis to figure out their values. So we can do that as well. So there are several different strategies. I would recommend go through that document. In that chapter, they are showing the implementation using the R. If anybody is comfortable with R, do apply that. It would be amazing. But I was able to apply some of these strategies from it in several other of my projects. So I have the code with them. I will implement on it and I will share it with you. You can go through it, that what exactly I'm doing. So I will be exploring several different strategies from that particular document. So, and I would recommend you to read it, and that would be amazing. Next thing, for example, energy star rating imputed with average of year built. Yes, average is one of the thing. You go with the central tendency of the, that is first thing we will try it. So, but sometimes mean is not a good representation because, for example, if the temperature in a particular region or at a particular row level is missing, and that is for February region, and the average temperature is coming out to be, let's say, 30 degrees, and in February the temperature tends to be around 10 degrees, then using the mean would make your model biased. So we don't want that. So we have to be careful about when to use mean, when mean would be a good imputation to use, or things like that. And year built filled with average. Yes, average. This is something now I just addressed. And so we have already addressed this one. So I will move maybe this one over here. So we have already addressed this one. We have already addressed this one. This is what I just wrote. Identify null values, yes, and then do something about it, which we are talking about. So I've made an image of a plot of NaN values from the full data set. I don't know if it's useful. That would be amazing. Anything that you're doing, it would be useful, share it. That's amazing. For example, like I would recommend exploring this particular, so this is, I did something like that as well. There is a kind of like library, which kind of like just plot the missing variables. So it is called missing no. So I just installed it and used it. And what I did is I basically just put in the columns which were null, because it cannot deal with the, if there are more than 50 features, 50 columns, then it would skip the 50 columns after 50. So that's a drawback of it. But what I did is I've just figured out all the columns which had null values and just plotted it. You can see the white spot is telling you how much percentage. So you can see this one has very few percentage of missing data. This one has a bit more. These ones are kind of like crazy. And you can see the similar pattern that they are missing at the same spot, at same level. So yes, you can use different strategies. You can explore this one. If you have something that is amazing, share it in the chat. And you want to address something, Rich?
Yep, I'm just going to say there's quite an interesting observation within the data, because what I've done is done a count plot of the categorical data, and on the facility type, we've got, you know, a vast majority of the data is the multifamily uncategorized section, and that falls within the building class of residential. So what we can understand from that is every prediction we're going to make, because this particular facility type is such a heavy part of our data. It might, it's worth considering the rest of the facility types may not have an equal weighting to that, so may not influence our predictions as much as the multifamily uncategorized class is. So it's that kind of data pre-processing, and I suppose that's a little bit of exploratory analysis as well. It's worth considering that that is a very top weighty sort of facility type class, and it's worth considering when we're pre-processing the data that that makes up the majority of our data. From my plot, it looks like it's just under 40,000 entries of that particular category alone.
That's so I think somebody did some correlation analysis with site EUI and all the variables. Yes, whatever you have, you can share. That's amazing. Means because yes, correlation, we have to look for a correlation, and we have to kind of like use variables which are good predictors for our target variable. And I think need to find unique values of categorical features to know which type of encoding. Yes, absolutely. This is all exploration, pre-processing. We would be trying everything, and I would recommend, if anybody has any questions while you are working on it, feel free to just put out a post in the Slack channel for this data pre-processing. If it is related to data pre-processing, I would recommend put it on the data pre-processing. It would be easy for us to kind of like address it based on that, and that would be pretty efficient. Yeah.
Hey Salman.
Yes.
What do you think about using KNN imputer for the missing values? Is that a good strategy?
Sorry, which one?
KNN imputer.
Nearest neighbors. Yes, nearest means so if you go and read the chapter that I shared with you, yes, there are several different strategies. You can use KNNs as well to figure out. So there is one strategy which is pretty simple and very straightforward to implement, which is kind of like, for example, if there are some missing variables missing, instead of just imputing it with the mean value or mode value or median value or something like that, what we can do is we can find similar rows where the rest of the other variables are very similar. That particular value is missing, so we can randomize it as well. So we can do randomization as well. Or KNNs is a good strategy. Yes, we can use regression to kind of like fill up those missing values. So yes, any strategy that you're coming up with, and if you can implement it, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, the KNN imputer, it would for our data set, a good example of use would be use a KNN to figure out the Energy Star ratings based on the year built, because obviously then you're using that sort of decision, that clustering decision to impute that. But with the rest of our data set, I think the missing values are relatively easy to think of intuitively, so it might not necessarily require that. But in terms of if you've got a complex data set and you need, one value is based on the value of another, the KNN imputer would be a fantastic choice to make, kind of thing. I think it would be effective in the year built and Energy Star rating in our particular example. However, I think that would just be down to interpretation on this one. If you can figure them out a little bit easier, it's up to you. Try it, and we can compare, and we can just see what values look the best.
So what I used to do was when using the KNN imputer. So let's say, for example, I'm imputing it for column 1. So first, what I would do is I would find which columns are highly correlated with the column ones, and then use those columns to impute this column. So that's how I used to do it.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Anything else is left?
I think I'm good on my part. If anybody has any questions, I'm open for it.
Hey, hi. I have another question. I mean, which is not related to the EDA or data pre-processing. So if everybody are doing their own coding, right? So how are we going to merge, or how are we going to pick which one is the best approach in that?
I think that would just be down to our weekly discussions. We've got access to the GitHub and also the file directory that's shared in the Slack. I think what we can do is, if everyone is using, say, Google Colab or Jupyter Notebook, it might be worth everyone uploading their own versions of the code, and we can certainly discuss and have sort of one sort of final draft, and we can pull different people's codes into that depending on how it goes, and which one's the sort of best and is most effective. I would think that would be probably the easiest way. Is that, Salman, what do you think about that?
Yeah,
Is that something?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a naming convention, like how they have to upload, or you just do it however they want?
Yes, there's if you go on GitHub, there's complete description of it, that how you should name your notebook. So just follow that convention, and if you have any question or something, always feel free to put up a question in the chat. Yeah.
So I have something to add here. First of all, thanks a lot, Salman and Rich. I think you guys coordinate pretty well. Actually, I liked this how you guys were showing the coding and showing the explaining the thought process. In fact, Rich also had something which he had on his screen. If he would have shared as well, I really was really interested to see that part as well, which he was saying briefly when you started. But I really like the approach, guys. So thanks a lot. Definitely, it's really helpful. In fact, you guys made me excited to watch this video later on as well. Thanks a lot for bringing this Miro thing. I think this is what we needed. You said then people can share their ideas without worrying that they can be judged. So that's perfect. Thanks for bringing that, Salman. Thanks a lot, Nishit. I don't know if he's still here, for giving you 2 cents. Is he here? Yes, thanks, Nishit. That was helpful too. It's to bringing that whole global perspective. I think that was important. Although this data set is constrained to US, but it was good. That was a good point, actually. At least I didn't consider that one before. And so I was thinking, like, few of the things which you guys were discussing, as in our pool, there's people with all sorts of backgrounds. Some are beginners, some are mid-level, some are senior, right? So I'm sure seniors or mid-level will be able to keep up, but I'm also worried for the beginners, but we don't want them to miss out as well. So one thing I was thinking, since you guys are task leads, and it's assumed that you guys are doing your work beforehand, which I can see it today as well. Is it possible that a task lead at least get done? I don't expect full, but at least like 60-70% of what they're, with the commenting wise, with everything what they have done in their sheet, just post in our central repository.
Sounds good. Right?
So a beginner, when he picks up, there's a good comments with every step by step, so he can take that and move on. Because if he has to start from scratch, I'm afraid he will lose motivation down the road. He will say, man, I'm lost, and then it's not for me, and he's going to leave. We don't want those people to leave the boat as well. And so is it okay with both of you though, and moving on with our future task leads?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, but I'm expecting 60-70%. Like, is it too much, or is it?
Whatever I will have, I will just put it out.
So this is good, right? I mean, whatever you did, it's already about 60-70. I mean, that are the main standard steps which you guys did already. You can always tweak around more, but the basic foundational work stay the same. That's why the Rich was said, what you did, Salman, that's pretty much mostly I can think, because these are the standard steps, and then future add-ons we can always do later.
Yes.
So I would say whatever the 60-70% standard stuff you just posted, so then beginners can carry on. But I was hoping that since for each task, there will be 2 meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping, or feel free to correct me as well, I was hoping, is it a maybe unrealistic expectation that I was hoping for first meeting before or by that time, you have that 60-70%, which I'm saying about the coding one, posted. So we still have 3-4 days for the beginners to catch up and others to catch up, but at least they know what you guys have done. Because will you guys be able to do it?
Means I'm working on it.
Right? So you just have to post it.
So
I mean, same thing.
I will put it out.
Because the thing is, even few things which you guys shared, even I was not fully sure, but I really like the idea with the way you guys express. Some of you guys are more experienced than the other, but I was really hoping what you guys have in your brain, we don't know what is it. So this is why it's important that there's a clear communication. So this is why few things I was hoping in our notes. You shared a very good article, Salman, or maybe Rich or you, on that R programming thing which you were referring, but that was at a different channel. Now all task leads have their own channels. Data pre-processing, feature, EDA, and pre-processing. So whatever the stuff at the beginning of those channels, if you guys have relevant article or whatever, 2-3 links, don't overwhelm the audience. 2-3 is fine, and you can just bookmark at the beginning. So anybody who comes, they know what to expect, and they can just follow those links. And that's assumed from all of us participants, regardless of the experience, to follow through, because we all expect everybody to know basic programming or basic Python, right? So that will be helpful. And yes, and yes, I think that's enough from my end at this point. Anybody want to add something? I want participants now, they have anything to share to the task leads, they want to ask anything more, otherwise we will just move on.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, like I said, I'm also a beginner of the data science part. So if I ask you in a layman terms, what is the final outcome of data pre-processing task? So it's like you will have all the data, like the null values should be imputed, outliers shall be removed. Like, what are the points that we say, what is the end result of this task?
So it's a kind of like a tough question, because a lot of people have different definitions for data pre-processing, because feature engineering, data pre-processing, EDA, they kind of like overlap. A lot of steps you are doing on data pre-processing are part of EDA as well, are part of feature engineering as well. So we will kind of like try to do whatever we can in the first week. And we would just call it data pre-processing, I believe, because a lot of steps are overlapping, because our next step is EDA, which we would be doing a lot of kind of like visual observations and so many different things in EDA, exploratory, going much detail. For example, right now we just identified which variables to look at. And then we would be imputing some of them or trying different strategies. That would be, I would call it data pre-processing. And then EDA, we can go further deep dive on those variables which we identified in the first process, and we can look into them. And then during feature engineering, we can kind of like do different imputations or things like that, and encoding. And I believe that's my take on it.
Yeah, I would agree. The point of the pre-processing is to make the data as clean and as digestible for whatever particular model that you're going to apply it to. It's just, and as you know, as Salman said, EDA and feature engineering, it's all a very, very similar sort of thing. But the fundamentals of it is that you've got a nice clean data set with no outliers that will throw your machine learning algorithm off. And it also helps the data scientist behind the chair to get a good understanding of what the data is. You might have clean data, but if you don't understand what the data means, you won't understand the outputs of your model. So you're not in a very strong position. So it's sort of a double-sided coin. One hand, you need the clean data. You need it to be as easy and digestible for the machine learning model. And on the second, you need to know the data like the back of your hand to make sense of the results that you get. Otherwise, you can't explain them results to anyone else. So that's my sort of take on it. But yeah, the fun. This is like 90% of your time is spent rooting through the data. When you're making machine models and stuff like that, you can make a model relatively quickly if you know what you're doing. But the most of the time you spend is digging through the data, finding interesting features, finding any sort of patterns that might be of interest. But yeah, it's what I've seen a quote saying, it's the biggest part of your job and the part that you complain about the most, but it needs to be done. And I do find it very interesting. And if you can sort of get your mind frame into the fact that it's sort of like a game, you're putting a jigsaw together and making, from all the different pieces, making something look, beautiful and elegant. If you see it like that, it's a lot easier. But yeah, that's the fundamental purpose of these data pre-processing and the rest of it.
So, anything else, Homan? Otherwise, I have something to add on that.
No, that's it. Thank you.
So, since everybody will be doing their own coding as well. But one thing I just want to make sure, up to 60-70% at least, the first part from what the task lead and co-leads will share, that should stay the same for everyone. And then 30% add-on, everybody have to do their own, right? So make sure we are on same page on that one. So nobody has to start from scratch. And then 70%, okay, so just make sure.
Yeah, I think a good idea as well, I mean, a lot of the stuff I've done is exactly the same as Salman. So if you upload yours to the GitHub, I think it'd be a good idea if people could, download it, make their adjustments and upload it with their particular name on it, so we know whose is who, and explore every user's sort of, exploration into the coding themselves. I'll upload mine as well, with the
do you guys mind combining just one combined version of yours? Just we want to keep it simple.
Yeah, that's fine.
So both of you coordinate on in future tasks as well. Both of the code tasks both coordinate combined version. Put one for each 3 tasks. We will have 3. And I was also hoping if you guys maybe can message me privately, whoever the task leads are. Check the. Let me share my screen. These are the timelines, right? Okay. So I was also hoping task leads and task co-leads think of their own deadlines. Like for when I said 70% coding done, they tell me those dates when they are delivering and posting on that GitHub thing. So at least I can announce to everybody. So at least the beginners can also take that and just move on, or at least do something. So that has to be done at a certain time, so the other participants know when to expect from you guys. So your deadline, let's say if this is 8 is the maximum deadline, expect your previous 70% code deadline to be 5. In this case, well, it's a bit exception since it's an exceptional meeting, this brainstorming, but for future one, that's how it's gonna be. Is that fair, guys?
Yep, that sounds good to me.
Okay, good. And so these are, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I'll give you a DM, Salman, and we'll just coordinate it, and you upload your information, and I'll just add the differences just to give a bit more context of what we've done. That's not a problem.
So will it be ready for tomorrow from you guys? At least I can expect.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, so at least other people can do it.
I mean, I can upload mine, whatever I have for now, because. So one thing I was saying is, I think it's good to share our individual ones separately, because then the beginners would be able to see different approaches, means how Rich go about his approach and how I go about my approach. So we don't want to kind of like make standard one thing, means whichever they understand better, they should stick with that. So I think 2 would be better than 1. Yeah.
I agree on that one. So you know what we can do for this 70% one, you guys have 2 versions, one for Rich, one for you, but finalized version on 8 June, we want combined of you, because that we can carry on for our later. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Okay, good. So let's do, actually, that's a better suggestion. Thank you. And so this is the timeline. I'm just giving as a reflection. The only thing, thanks a lot for those who signed up for being a task lead. And of course, you guys, your own also learn a lot. But as I mentioned earlier, it comes with added responsibilities. So we all will be judging, and the one criteria will also, since they're participants, if participants will be satisfied with the task lead, then that's the only case they will get a second task at max. Otherwise, we'll have to change our task leads, because we all are here for a reason, right? Nothing, take it personally, just something we want to maximize our learning experience. That's all. I also suggest maybe those who have industrial experience or those who have done certifications, only those people take the task lead, so at least they can add much more value for the other participants.
So Imran, in that case, if because I do not have the industrial experience, I'm doing as part of learning and boosting my confidence. So if somebody else wants to take up the task list for EDA, I'm totally fine with it.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no worries. We all are learning. Yeah, in fact,
because they will bring in the more hands-on and the industrial experience. Like I already see Rich and Salman, the kind of knowledge they get. So I'm okay if somebody else becomes the task lead for EDA too.
Thanks,
I'll be
Komal.
totally
I like this mindset. We all are here for learning anyway. So yes, I think Salman is there for EDA. He volunteered. So that spot for co-lead is empty in case for anybody
so-
want to get started. So that we can do that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so I'm
Komal.
okay. I'm okay to be a co-lead for EDA, and if somebody else has more experience than me, I'm totally fine too.
Yes, let's do that definitely. Actually, if any one of you also in my agenda, if somebody wants to take some other leadership role for this month long, I can have 1 or 2 positions. I was hoping you guys can add value. So message me privately, and I can share those details as well for some leadership roles. And I can if you guys do that, you guys will be added into Omdina community afterwards as well if you guys dedicatedly do it. Okay, we need to finish it fast. So I'm moving on now. Thanks, Komal, and let's discuss our meeting times now. So that's where we are right now. Let's start from Sunday. Starting from Sunday on 9 till 10 on Sunday, there are 12 people. That's one of them is maybe, so maybe possibly 13. And nothing on these dates. $11 on Wednesday, 9 till 10. And then there's nothing here. And then 13 again on Friday. And let me see if there's anything else here. So one thing I would, yeah, so that's where we are. I think based on the nature of these meetings, it will be tough because people are in different time zones. So I don't know how to, maybe you guys can suggest me how we can do that. Okay, well, this meeting is about to end again. So any suggestion, any comments? I think one of them, I think majority are available on Sunday and one is Friday. So we need 2 meetings. So you guys tell, and then we'll finalize accordingly. Please comment here now or say something.
Means I'm fine with both the days. Means both days work for me.
So I
Yeah,
prefer
both
at
days
least
work
the
for me as
task
well.
leads should be available for sure. So are you guys on wherever the majority falls, you guys are available for both?
Yeah.
So Fridays 9 to 10 in the morning, right? AM, right?
Let's double check. Because for task leads, it's mandatory for sure. Yes.
Means I don't have anything at that time planned right now, so I'm good with that. But since I'm kind of like sometimes meetings can come up at a unannounced time, and I cannot say for that. But I will be available during that time. 9 to 10 works for me any day. But if something comes up that I cannot say.
That's understandable. Some of us are working professionals too. So in that case, let's say that worst case happens. So how are we gonna go? And what about Rich and other guys?
Yeah, I mean, all the meetings, if it gets announced, I book it for my work calendar. So no one pulls anything unsurprising on me. So I'm fine with pretty much. The only consideration I've got is that the Eastern times, I'm based in the UK, so like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the minute, so it can't be too late, otherwise it'll be 3 a.m. in the morning. And you know, I'll be on the laptop in bed. But yeah, the days that have been selected that are most popular and the times, they're perfectly fine for me at the moment.
And
both of those.
what I was thinking, for example, let's say since there's a lead and there's a co-lead, which means if one of the lead is not available, then yes, the co-lead or the lead can take the responsibility.
Yep. That's the whole idea for two. So yes, both of you guys or whoever will be in future will have to coordinate. Okay, that's good. So are we guys, anybody feel free to comment, anybody has anything to say? Otherwise, so far, I think we have a majority on Friday 9 till 10, 13 people, as well as on Sunday.
What are the timings for Sunday?
Let's see. But here's the thing now, that's a new concern pop up in my mind. I was hoping that on Sunday, then there's not much time difference. 2 days, then I guess you presented 70% of your code on Friday, and then Sunday you are presenting. How we can approach that part though? Let's see the calendar as well. So these are the dates. This is the can you guys see the calendar too?
Yep.
So 8th is this guy, Wednesday. So I'm just trying to plan ahead, so at least we all know the dates, so at least we all can plan our individual calendars as well. So if this is the 8th when Salman and Rich supposed to deliver, I guess today they're gonna post their codes and all. So I guess by the next meeting will be what, tomorrow?
Wasn't it on Wednesday? I think we had more votes on.
So that where? Let's see. Am I missing something? That's what I'm asking. Where on Wednesday? Well, it's on Sunday is the max 12.
Oh.
And then in which there's one maybe as well, so at least there can be 13. And then Wednesday, let's see.
So Imran, we have to have by 8th, we have to have 2 more meetings, right?
So this week was only exceptional, right? Well, ideally we should have 2 because at least everybody on the same page.
Okay.
But your guys' availability is all over, so I don't know how you guys. That's why I'm asking everyone to help me as well to schedule as well, like how we should do it. We can do Wednesday, but are you guys available? At least task leads.
I'm available on Wednesday.
What about you, Rich? At least task lead should be there, and then we can just record it. That's the best I can do. But
that's fine.
But usually
Wednesday's
people
fine.
don't watch recordings on time, so that's my also concern. So I prefer people to.
9 to 10. Yeah, I'm good.
So how about one before that as well?
8 to 9.
No. One before means any other day before. Like Wednesday is a final cutoff for you guys. You guys are giving a final data to us and with the final presentation. What about one before? Do you guys want to do one before?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
What about Monday for now? Because tomorrow I think it's too early.
Monday at what time?
I mean, you guys, let's see when our majority is available on Monday. Okay, 9 till 10 on Monday.
Yes, that's fine with me.
All right. So Monday and Wednesday for now, but starting next week, we will have one on Sunday. After Wednesday, the next one for next task will be on Sunday, as well as then we're gonna. My only concern is based on the poll, we have more availability on Friday and Sunday. So let's say this task get done on Monday and Wednesday for this week. For the next task, let's say when the EDA comes, we will be meeting on Friday and Sunday. Isn't it that too congested for whoever is taking lead on those ones? That's my only concern.
Yes.
So we should either meet. So how do you guys suggest? Can you guys adjust your availabilities? Do you guys have any? In general, I'm asking all participants: can people have luxury to move their availabilities or not? At least we can plan for rest of this month our availabilities or this meetings. What do you guys suggest? So for just to wrap up again, for this task only, we'll be meeting on Monday and Wednesday, and that's done. Period. This guy, that's on 8 June. But I'm asking for these moving from week 2 onwards. I'm asking for the availability for that time. When do we want to meet? If Wednesday we are meeting, so when should we?
Imran, Wednesday was the 3rd highest, right? So if people are like they're flexible, we can have Wednesday and Friday for the coming weeks. Only if they are available.
So Wednesday, Friday, but then there's another majority is on Sunday. So the way I'm looking at it, Friday works. But what about the next one? You want to keep it on Sunday?
I think if we for the rest of the week, I think having the Wednesday and then the Sunday would be probably better because it gives us a few days either side to get the work done.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, if people can't make it, they can't make it. But it's the recorded. We can share notes in the group if we can't make it. That's fine. But I think having a couple of days in between meetings would help. Because it gives people a chance to get the code together and review other people's code as well.
Yeah. I'm thinking, Imran, that let's set the dates for submissions fixed. that we have to submit these things by a certain date. And about the presentation, we can do it one day ahead of it, or before, after that, or something like means for the presentations, yes, we can do it on Sundays and Fridays. But for the submission part, that this part needs to be submitted by this particular date, we need to kind of like just fix that. But the meeting part, we can move it around based on the availability of the people.
So for future weeks, you guys are saying that we should have a repetitive this polling for the future weeks?
Means since a majority of people are showing that they are available on Sunday and Friday, which means this particular task, we have to do it on Monday and Wednesday, but the next Sunday is on June 12th, and then next Friday is on June 17th, which means the deadline for the second thing is 15th, which means, yes, we have to finish our code by 15th and submit it, but we can present it on 17th, right?
Whatever majority says on that, I'll go with the majority.
Because what I'm saying is that when we submit it on 15th, everybody would have access to whatever we have done, so they can go through it. They will have 2 days in this particular scenario to go through it, and on 17th, when somebody task lead is presenting, they can ask specific questions from their work, that why you did that, or what is that, or things like that. So which means that this will give them a better kind of like.
So my only concern is, although to an extent I agree, my only thing is, once the date is passed, I really want people to move on, because if they wait for 2 days, I know people will have different reasons, and they say, okay, I didn't start 2 days late, and then they will carry over late, and then this just goes on, and then they will fall apart. So it's timeline, I think we should definitely strict. I think that Wednesday Red's suggestion was good. At least it's a middle of the week, and then one is Sunday, so one is weekend, one is, it's kind of perfect balance, at least what I think. But majority, whatever majority will say, that will be our final decision.
And all our due dates are on Wednesdays as per this plan.
Yes, so yeah, so Sunday is like a regular, give us 70% update, and then by Wednesday give us your final
Final.
presentation, and that's, we will be meeting our timeline as well.